All right. All right. I do believe we are here. I just want to do my audio check through YouTube since I use Restream now and I can't just test my own audio before I go live. Still waiting. All right. We're all good to go. Sweet. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Easter Sunday. I can't believe you're not at church, man. I mean, dude, there was stuff. I live right behind like a pretty big, or not right behind, but I live near a church. And let me tell you, this is the first Easter I've been on this side of it, and these guys were going crazy. They were firing off fireworks last night. They were like partying, getting trashed. Like, man, these Christian folks love Trans Visual Awareness Day, man. This is a wild, wicked weekend. So multiple things coming through this. One major thing is I never ever wear like who I'm playing like shirt wise. If I'm wearing a NASCAR shirt, I'm typically wearing a meme shirt or something that doesn't matter. I'm wearing like Cup Guys stuff on Saturday. Like I hate this sport. Like this sport is so stupid. But motherfuckers, I am all in on Ty Gibbs today, man. Like you're telling me this guy doesn't get his first win on Easter Sunday? Like, dude, I might kill myself if he doesn't do that. Like, dude, we're gonna go in. We're gonna talk about this race. Very, very, very interesting race from a building perspective. I want all the questions. I want all your opinions in here. Yet again, yesterday we figured out that four of the viewers, for the chat, in terms of are you he's with us. Are you in terms of the Jesus AI commercials? We found out that we're nearly all washing feet. I want to find some people who want their feet washed. Like it seems very one-sided at this point. Anyway, as we go in and we look at this race and we look at how everything's going to break down, we run into a situation unlike recent Richmond races to where the salary is going to be much tighter. I don't necessarily foresee. I mean, we can have an act of God or something happen, but I find it very hard to believe that we're going to have somebody who's either $7,000 or $8,000 go out and lead laps and take over this race. Thankfully, we have I'm not saying Alex Bowman doesn't have a chance to, but I'm saying like realistically, like when we look at the favorites in this race, when we look at the people who are projected to lead laps and get fast laps and have a good day on pit lane and look at who's been fastest on pit lane, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Our main guys that we're going to be looking at are Kyle Larson, Truex, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, where are we at? Seabell, and Christopher Bell. Okay, now if you notice, I ain't that good at math, but if you notice, we're looking at a lot of the 10K range. In fact, I have highlighted the entire 10K range outside of Ty Gibbs. Okay. Now, it's seeming like, in terms of where ownership is going to go, and yet again, we're speaking out loud, we're trying to think things through as we look at this contest. Kyle Larson's going to probably be the highest owned driver. Okay. I mean, if we're not playing White Power Larson on Easter Sunday, I mean, his audience just isn't paying attention, man. He's 10-2. And we'll look at the data to support this. I want to get through this first before we go through it. So we're looking at a majority of people using Kyle Larson. Regardless if you like him or don't like him, we're most likely looking at two 10K guys, okay? And the fact that Hamlin is 11-2, he's starting 11th, offers place differential, offers a situation where he'll most likely be a top 4 contender for this race, like running position-wise. Most likely going to get the lead on pit lane at some point, and if it doesn't happen, it'll be due to a pit lane issue, okay? So, like, Hamlin is most likely the favorite to gain the most positions and compete with Larson to get the lead, correct? We know that Truex has a rich history here at Richmond, north of Richmond, to get fast laps, to get off sequence, to get the lead during green flag pit stops, and to gain positions and stay in contention through the long green flag runs here at Richmond. That's what we've seen. We've gone over that. Even in this situation where we'll look at the Gen 6 car real fast. Like even in that car, James Small and Truex were always trying to get off strategy. As I said, that's a fantastic thing you want to chase in DFS. You want teams, regardless if they end up working or they don't end up working, you want teams that are going to like actually make strategy calls to get off sequence, to get different. Like I'd much rather have somebody like that than just a clone of everybody else, just following the leader. Like Truex and this team is going to be chasing to get off sequence. As we continue going on, Christopher Bell starting 29th, we understand that he will most likely get close to hitting value on pure place differential and fast laps alone. I mean, realistically, we see, or at least I have Bell, getting like 14 fast laps and stuff, and go ahead and finishing near like 13th. That's what I have him projected at right now. If he ends up finishing around 8th or so, I think I just X'd out of something important here. I'm not entirely sure what I just did. Ooh, man, I don't know. Hopefully I didn't change anything. The fact that, Christopher Bell will most likely get, 14, 13 fast laps or some sort throughout this 400 lap race. The fact that he'll most likely finish anywhere from 6th to 14th here makes it, a discussion that we need to talk about, because he's going to be scoring 50 points. Now, yet again, I have been crushed this year on NASCAR DFS. Vegas was literally the only good race I've had. Yesterday was the first time I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, man. I have blown through my allotted money. Like, I need to save the rest of it for the 1.5s. I'm going to do one lineup yesterday. And yesterday I would have fucking smashed by how I fucking play. It's unbelievable. Even my one lineup, I'm so pissed off. That would have been such a huge day. I would not have played the optimal because I wouldn't have played Baird. But looking at the lines, like when I look at my top 20 lines that I would end up playing, it would have been a fucking horrendous. I mean, it would have been like just a smash spot. So I'm very, very annoyed by that. So when we're looking at Bell, the reason I'm bringing this up is, yes, he's 11,000. But when we start looking at 1v1s, okay, when we start looking at a contest that has 37,000 people in it, when we look at 1v1s here, when you're looking at building lineups and looking at what a potential optimal lineup is can change throughout the day. Like, Allgaier was looking fantastic until he fell apart on last run. And these guys stayed out, Custer and Allgaier. And then the main thing that saved Custer was he was able to drive back up through the field and get fast laps and stuff. But for the majority of the time, it was looking like it was going to be Allgaier and Eric Amarola being optimal. And then Allgaier fell down and Sammy Smith took over and stuff. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing that up is when we start running into 1v1s in the 10K range today, whether, you're looking at a popular build of like Larson and Hamlin or Larson and Truex and stuff, I would implore you to at least, say if you're doing 20 lines, do like 25% of your lines truly with Christopher Bell as the 1v1 swap with that. So if you have a Truex line that you really like and you have $200 left over, put Bell on that in case Truex runs an issue. If you have a lineup that you have Larson and Hamlin with, throw Bell in there instead of Hamlin to cover that situation there. And another reason why this needs to be discussed is that when we're looking at least my projections, and I'm looking at how I have everybody projected for, I mean, clearly it's Larson, runaway, and stuff like that. But I have Hamlin, I have Byron, I have Truex, I have Gibbs, and Blaney, all in situations to where they're scoring very similar to each other. Okay. And so it's like, sure, it's not going to lean anywhere. Like if I have Denny Hamlin for 57.9 points and I have Truex at the bottom of these 40, it's at 53.5 points. Like clearly it's not leaning one way or the other. It's just saying that like there's a lot of situations where a lot of these guys end up scooting and moving each other out of the optimal lineup and stuff. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is in terms of who I think you should target up here, most likely able to perform decent or well today, Larson is the clear favorite. If you're going to be fading anybody, you're fading Larson based on the fact that he wrecks out. Like Larson is probably the de facto play. I don't foresee a reason why you wouldn't play Larson. Secondly, it would be Hamlin. Like I'm not going out on a limb here, but I think Byron is actually a better play than Truex. And if I'm including Bell in that, it would probably be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I probably have Truex as my least interested driver. The main reason being is I'm concerned based on his price and based on based on where he's starting in comparison to everybody else. There's a real chance like Truex. I would argue that today, where everybody else is starting, an all right day from Truex, him getting, like 23 laps led. He's not necessarily running away with the race. He's getting like, 25 fast laps and stuff. Might not be enough. And I think you would actually want to prioritize Hamlin and Byron and Bell over Truex. That's kind of where I stand today. That is probably my opinion. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and look at the practice data. Let's go ahead and look at everything else. Then we'll go ahead and talk about Ty Gibbs and everybody else here. Actually, no, before I get to that. So we're chasing 10K guys, whether it be 2 or 3 guys, and that I don't even know my numbers. We're looking at a situation where we're going to have to punt. And I don't foresee us leaving a lot of salary on the table. And so for me, when we're looking down here, I think every one of your lineups needs to have one of Hemrick, one of Gralla, one of Haley. The reason being is if we're paying up for so many people, and like I'm not a huge fan of the 8K place differential plays. I'm not a huge K of place differential plays in general today, like prioritizing them outside of Bell, because Bell, I think, can realistically like actually compete to win this race. I'm not a big fan of any of the place differential like PD plays. Like we have Keselowski, you have Busher in the 9K range, you have Kyle Busch in the 9K range, you have Redekins in the 8K range. Like I'm truly not a fan of any of these guys. Okay. And so the main outside of talking about the 10K range, talking about the value range, like I think every lineup should have one of these guys, and it should be dictated purely by how much salary you have left over. Clearly, Haley's the better play of these 3 guys. If you can't afford Haley, go to Gralla. If you can't afford Gralla, go to Hemrick. If you can't afford Hemrick, you've built a line using too much of the salary. Like that is it. So when I'm looking at this, I don't want to double punt, but when we're building, especially if you're going somebody like Hamlin and Truex or Hamlin and Larson, we're using some of the most expensive guys on the slate. I mean, Hamlin's most expensive, Larson's 10-2. You have to get to one of these cheapest guys, like who gives a shit how they score? We were just trying to fit in as many, guys who can lead laps and be optimal as possible. I'm going to use Gralla for this example. So like we have Hamlin, Larson, Gralla, that leaves you $7,800. You can at least get up to 2 other plays that you want, and then like you're kind of stuck in the 6K range or whatever. But that's a much better way of going about it than playing without a 5K guy and being like, well, these guys are trash. Like, I mean, I don't really want to punt this week. I'm going to stay in the 6K range. Then you're just like hog tying yourself in the 6K range for all your plays. And I don't believe that is where I want to go. Now, we're talking about salary here. Yet again, I haven't talked about anything regarding practice laps or anything. This is mainly talking about just game theory approach today. The fact that Larson is at 10-2, the fact that we have White Power Larson himself at a pretty big discount, like that is huge. The fact that he's 10-2 is pretty nuts. We nearly never have Larson there. We also have multiple other discounts, like William Byron. Yet again, we'll look at stuff, who's had phenomenal races at the short tracks in this car. Yes, the finishes haven't panned out for him, but the fact that we also have Byron at 10-5, rivaling being a direct pivot in terms of potential scoring between Hamlin and Byron, I think these guys are very much identical plays. I would rather take the discount off of ownership, the drastically different type of builds that you have to deal with. Like if like when you're looking at lineups being built with Larson and Hamlin, or Larson Truex or Hamlin Truex, et cetera, like we can figure out that that's a fork in a road that'll cause, if you're building that way, you're going to be going down a certain way in terms of salary of where you can go. Even if you're going to 5K range, we're still kind of all building in similar fashion. Whereas the money you're saving by getting off of Hamlin to William Byron, or playing, basically the cheaper of the 10K guys with Larson and Byron, that's sending you down a completely different road. That's giving you an avenue that you can build different with and get to slightly more expensive guys, whether it be some 9K guys, whether it be playing multiple guys in the 8K range. Like you're getting different from the field that's having to go dumpster diving in the 6K range and stuff like that. Because like I think that's truly dumpster diving. Like you're playing, Gralla, Haley, Hemrick, that's because we're just down there because we need the salary savings and stuff. So I personally like that type of approach, especially in a race like this, just getting different, and especially when it seems like the centralized ownership is going to be up at the top end and not really. I mean, yes, Busher and Keselowski seem like they're going to be popular, but the true chunk of ownership that I would rather get different off is not the Larson ownership; it's the Truex and Hamlin ownership. So that's where my train of thought is looking at. Now, as we go through everything I just stated regarding William Byron and why I think he's a great play. I mean, Ty Gibbs, are you kidding me? 10K? What's going on here? So the last like 4 weeks, right? everybody has finally joined the Ty Gibbs bandwagon. They're all like, he's gonna get his win. It's gonna be soon. Just keep playing Ty Gibbs. Just keep doing it. And then we're coming off. I'm not saying Bristol and Phoenix are similar to Richmond. I mean, we can argue that Phoenix is closer and stuff, but outside of, and I misspoke in my previous video. I said bad pit stall. Ty Gibbs had a bad pit stop in Phoenix that cost him a real chance to take over the lead again mid race. He drove back up and finished third. Like, I think Ty Gibbs, truly, like, not even memeing around. Like, I love to meme and make fun of God and stuff like that. But like, Ty Gibbs is, I think he's a true contender today. I think I would be shocked if he does not finish in the top 5, because yet again, if we like Truex, if we like Bell, we can easily see him finishing in the top 10. If we like Hamlin, why would you not just play the guy that nobody's playing? What's going on here? Everybody, like, the entire industry was like, yeah, we gotta be ahead of Gibbs. And then like he it's just 1,300 over his 8,700 last weekend. It's like, yeah, sure, it's wild to see this literal child be 10K in the Cup Series, but like I'm gonna be playing Ty Gibbs today. Like, I don't give a fuck. Um, that's where I'm at. That's my true opinion. So we haven't even looked at data or anything like that. So let's go ahead and go through, and I want to look at this here. So yet again, this is the grid. We're gonna go ahead and just kind of see. We won't look at practice yet. We're just gonna kind of remind you and fill your memories back in for where everybody's at. Okay. So, and I'll look at the chat in a minute here. I do believe we have like 67 something people in here. So if you guys want to start dropping comments or anything specific, or just if you just want to chat, rant, you having a bad day, you having a bad morning. I don't know why. It's Easter, but if you're having a rough time or whatever, let's hear about it in the chat. So like when we're looking at Kyle White Power Larson, looking pretty good. I got really nothing major to complain about here. Now I understand he was in the first practice group, okay, and so things will certainly be inflated. But the fact that I like his fall off in terms of towards the back end of the field, like when we're looking at 5-lap runs, like this doesn't even matter. We're looking primarily at 30 and 25 lap runs here, and I have it just set for 25 at the moment. Like this is where it matters, and specifically where you're falling off compared to your own laps, especially since we're in two different groups. Like how is your own fall off compared to other things, or compared to like your own stuff? And so like Larson 10-2, I don't see a reason to not want to have Larson today. He's projected to be the highest owned driver. He's starting first at a discount. I don't think we need to go much farther than that. Chase Elliott, I'm personally not going to play him. 9-2-1, I can't get to him. So if you're playing Elliott, Chastain, Bowman, Bubba, Ty Gibbs, William Byron, you are building around those individuals. Like you're not just, I guess I'll just drop in Chase Elliott. Like you can't. If you're playing Larson and another 10K guy, like getting to Elliott, you have to build around Elliott. And then you not only do you need to build around him, you need Elliott to show up and kill the fucking field at where he's starting. The disadvantage that your lineup has on median points compared to other lineups, like if you're playing Elliott, you need him to actually do something. And so for me, I'm not playing Elliott. I'm not playing Chastain. This is where he's at here. Also, this is a Group A driver. I didn't even show Elliott's stuff. I mean, Elliott's very similar. When we're looking at where they're at here, like that's concerning, and that's concerning. Like that's pretty big. I'm not a big fan of that. So as we continue to go on, when we look at Bowman, so this is a play that I really like if you're playing Larson Hamlin. If you're playing Larson Truex, if you're doing Larson Truex Hamlin, I really like Bowman in that sense. For what Bowman has the potential of doing, very similar to Larson in terms of ownership, or in terms of fall off, not ownership rather. Yes, he falls off much more, but yet again, I mean, this is like 40 laps to a practice, possibly coming to the end, possibly in traffic, whatever the case may be. I would just prefer Larson in this sense. And he might be inflated due to this, due to the rankings of his long run speed. I personally would prioritize Bowman in a chalk build and not just chasing him in general. I mean, AK, like, yet again, a reason why I would do that is because he is directly going against Brad Keselowski. He's directly going against Tyler Reddick. And if you believe that these guys are struggling or not going to be able to get through the field, you want to get off the chalk and stuff, like Bowman is where you would go in that sense. Okay. We got Bubba Wallace, not playing Bubba. We got Tug Gillen, not playing Tug Gillen. We got Truex. I've already made the discussions there. We don't need to go any further. When we look at Gibbs, like, this is like clearly these days are lineup is dead. This guy's dead to me. Nail this guy to a fucking cross. That's the only thing he's good for. But when we start looking at, like, actually the improvements, like, this is truly like rookie. Okay, like, come on. Like, true rookie, and then this hunk of shit car, this dog shit racing series. I like it, man. I really, really do. I really, really do. I like his fall off. Clearly a situation where the only way he gets the lead is doing stuff on pit lane. What is the team that does? There's two teams, okay? Hendrick typically only does it if they're in control of the race. When we look back at races at, like, Martinsville, when we look at past races years ago, and this is just in general, we're not pulling data from these, but when we look at races like in past, when Larson and or Byron is in control of the race, and even Elliott, they're able to make decisions that keep them up front, but you never see Hendrick make strategy decisions that get them the lead on green flag strategy, on getting off sequence. They can maintain it, but you never see them jump leaders. Okay, if they're in control of a race, they're perfectly fine, but we typically see them need to be in control of a race to actually stay up there. When we look at Joe Gibbs and RFK, these are the main two teams that are going to be vying to take over the lead from whoever has the lead. Even if it's a Joe Gibbs teammate, like, each of those teams are going to be trying to jump over each other. Yet again, I think Ty Gibbs makes a fucking fantastic tournament play today. Like, I'm playing Ty Gibbs on fucking Easter Sunday. Are you fucking kidding me? We're not playing Cindric. We're not playing. So Logano is another guy that, if I was doing a lot of lineups that I'd have interest in, primarily due to this type of upside, and more so him being at $8,400 isn't killing the lineup yet again. It's getting off of Keselowski. It's getting off of Reddick, which I would kind of prefer to do today. I don't think that Keselowski is necessarily like a slam dunk play. Ownership is going to show him, but I think there's a lot of issues with the Keselowski play this week compared to what he did last year. Yet again, a Group A driver, but like his own fall off is not that bad, in my opinion, for what I'm trying to look at here. This is a bit concerning. I don't believe that, when this comes down to it, he's going to have the sixth best car. He's probably going to be right around like the teens and stuff. But I think he's a very, very interesting play. And this is the first time I'm really talking about Logano, because clearly, like, in my shows, I talk about people that I like and that I want to play. If I don't necessarily bring somebody up, right out of the gun, or I talk about him, like, I'm not huge on him. So that's kind of where I'm at with Logano. If I was playing 20 lines today, I'd probably want him in like 20% of my lines. But past that, like, it's more so aiming for a situation like this. And I think, like, this is much more likely than other people, just by looking at his consistency. Like, he's going to be a top 15 contender based on this type of stuff. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Hamlin, clearly don't need to talk about him. Most consistent guy so far. Ryan Blaney, very similar to like Logano, and why I argued that, like, he can argue to rival what the 10K guys are doing, because all he has to do at 95 is move up and be like 5th to 9th all day, and where he is lined up in a lot of these races. Now, it hasn't been Richmond. He has had horrific races last year at Richmond, but everything else, like, that's not bad, man. When we look at Byron and we look at situations, ran into issues last year at Richmond, in the fall race, and in Martinsville. But past that, like, this is what we're looking at. Same thing, including Phoenix. I'm down for a discounted price on William Byron. All this is based on, or at least for me, whenever I approach stuff, especially when I'm trying to be rather aggressive or ahead of the curve and stuff, like, dude, Byron is going to have no ownership. Dude, Ty Gibbs is going to have no ownership at all. Like, and these are, I don't think it's that far fetched that they score the same or outscore Hamlin and Truex. So, like, I'm very much on Byron. When we look at Chris Buescher, this is kind of why I'm not very, very high. You know, the one race last year, Richmond, yes, but that's pretty concerning. Look at his laps and everything. It's more so the fall off that he has in these early runs that I am not a fan of, regardless of what group we're in. I'm just not a fan. And yet again, you can argue that I'm arguing and picking of what data I'm accepting and what data I'm not accepting. But I'm just not 92. You got to build around him, you know, regardless if you like Ty Gibbs, Lloyd Byron, or whatever. If you're very much like, I want to play Hamlin, I want to play Truex, you can't get to Buescher, or if you're playing him, you got to build around him. And in that situation, if you're building around a driver, you need him to actually show up and do stuff. And that is not a situation I'd want to be at. We can argue that Kyle Busch is very similar. But yet again, but basically nobody's playing Kyle Busch today. And I think today is going to be very much a line construction type of day, because of how spread out potential points can be, and the fact that it's probably going to be a race where you got to punt once. That's where Busch falls in line. Probably not going to play Priest today. Yet again, I'm trying to avoid the 6K range, so just personally for me, I'm not getting to him. Gregson, I'm not going to play. And even as we go back here, with like a Priest and his lines and his practice data, we look at Gregson's. And we continue to go down. I ain't gonna waste time looking at Nemechek. And it's not even wasting time. I just like to not have to fucking type stuff. Like, here, we'll look at it again. Clearly not on this tab. We look at, ooh, he may have been. I misspelled his name. Pretty horrible. Pretty horrible play. Pretty horrible play where I'm at. Reddick, who I would actually prefer playing over Brad Keselowski. Like, when we look at Reddick compared to Brad, like, clearly the ownership is going to be on Brad. I mean, dude, Reddick is 500 more expensive, starting 4 positions higher up in a Toyota car. Yet again, 2311 is a team that is going to be very aggressive in their strategy as well. I would actually prefer Reddick over Keselowski. Ownership alone. You can argue that that's not a true valid reason, but I would actually prefer Reddick over Keselowski. Not playing Corey, can't get the LaJoy, can't build around Stenhouse. For me personally, like, if I'm building, I'm just not laying on Dylan. Stenhouse is somewhat interesting here. So when we look at where he's at, like, if I was in the 6K range, Stenhouse would be the guy I would actually be interested the most in, due to the upside that he has shown when they want to have speed, when they do show up. Starting very similar to where he should be. Like, this is where, I mean, anything less than this is a fucking disaster for Stenhouse. But his floor should be right where he starts. Now, his ceiling is like 20th and stuff, despite the fact that he's had some good races here. But, like, dude, man, I know it's a bad group. This is horrendous. This fall off is very, very bad. But, man, in terms of 6K drivers that nobody wants to play, why did I move that? Oops. Move that here. I don't hate Stenhouse, man. Yeah, Carson, 59, quite expensive as a punt play. We got Burton. And, I'll probably remove Phoenix 1 following this week, just because I like to continue adding on to current stuff, focusing more on later stuff. But it's just nice to see. But, like, when I look at this and people are like, why don't you play this guy? Like, I just don't. I mean, he hasn't been viable in any of these races. And then yet again, it's not finishing position, just is how I rank people based on where they're at in terms of speed, because like finishing position can be very dependent on like late race stupidity and how everything breaks down. But like when we're looking at where Burton is compared to this type of stuff, that's like this is one where like duh, like we see how bad Burton has been, and like oh, but you know you look at his averages, he's like right here. Oh, but man, you look like what is about his long run speed? Like this is one where it's like yeah, that's not accurate at all. We can't even worry about that. So yet again, we get to Jones. Yikes, man, yikes. St. Smith, Bell. I mean, we'll look at Smith, but he's not going to show up much here because we got Chandler Smith over there, St. Smith here, St. Smith at the back. So yet again, this is all stuff that I just do normally when I'm building my projections and looking over stuff. But like the Bell plays like best car recently at Phoenix, you know, where he'll most likely finish is in between this range here, which is basically where all this stuff is. He gets a little bit better, gets some fast laps, like going to be very much competing and outscoring the people who in the 10K range who don't get the lead. Like, I don't think Bell is that horrific of a play today. And I encourage you, if you're entering a lot of lineups, use him as a 1v1 with some of your expensive guys. You know, Barry, like, I'm not believing that. He's not the best car in that sense. He's going to be right around, like, mid-tier or, like, mid-teens and stuff. Like, the McDowell play makes more sense to me than the Keselowski play. Because we've seen McDowell come from the back in these races and finish right in this range, which is right where you need him to do to hit your 35 points. He's cheaper than Keselowski. He's easier to get to Keselowski. He doesn't kill your lineup like Keselowski or even Reddick or some of the more expensive guys get to. And now, I mean, that's quite sad seeing him down that low. But like his fall off comparison to his own laps is not that bad. And that's mainly why this is like in traffic or something, because nobody's running 110s outside of being stuck in traffic and stuff. So like even if you take these out real fast, what is that average at? We're looking at 114.6. It's moving up slightly. But McDowell is a guy that I would actually probably prioritize. That's the wrong race. I'd probably prioritize him if you need a place differential play. If you want to build around somebody, regardless of who you're playing up top, McDowell would probably be that guy. Briscoe is in the same sense. You know, like when we look at Briscoe, compared to where he's starting at, like Briscoe and McDowell seem like great plays to me to build around. I feel like their chances of actually like failing is pretty low, or maybe killing lineups rather is pretty low. When we look back at what he did at Briscoe rather, and even Barry, when you look back at a few weeks ago when Barry started 36th at Phoenix and finished 26th, which is where he at. Barry. I think he's way up here. I don't remember. Mainly trying to. Where the fuck? Oh, yeah. So Barry's right here. Okay. He starts 36 at Phoenix. Has a pretty decent car and finishes 26. The reason why I'm bringing that up is Chase Briscoe in that same race, very similar to this race here, or Gregson rather, very similar to this race here, starts in the back of the field, and Noah has a fantastic day at Phoenix. You know, he goes from 7th, finishes 14th, runs up front all day. When we look at Priest at Phoenix, when we look at the Stewart Haas cars started in the back of the field, like Priest started 27th, finishes 23rd. And you look at where Briscoe was at Phoenix. If we started up front and finished here, like I like McDowell and Briscoe today. Like 7,076. I'd much rather my place differential plays come from guys ranked in this range, more expensive people, These guys fit in any type of lineup you're building. You can get to one of them or both of them or whatever, and then you can. I like Briscoe and McDowell today. That'll probably be my anchor compared or combined with one of these punt plays there. So like that's mainly how I'm approaching it. Yet again, I'm not doing a lot of lineups today because I just want to get to the 1.5s and stuff. But that's where I would be at here. So let's see what you guys are talking about since we've been here and we've been live for about half an hour. I haven't even acknowledged chat at once, so I do apologize, but we are here. Let's go ahead and go through everything. Thank you, Tyler. You can't shut a good Christian boy down, man. Like they're going to dominate on certain races, and this is a certain weekend to where like Christian boys have a real chance, man. What's going on, Brian? Good rising to you. Happy Easter, Noah. What's going on, Matthew? What's going on, Brian? Good luck to you, Eagles. What's going on, BVP09? Happy to see you back in the chat. Yeah, man. AD, it is a home race for Truex. However, like I think, we look at the changing times. Like it used to be the auto owners lock in for these guys dominate. I mean, I think it's going to religion, man. I think it is straight up on some of these races. But at least with ownership today, I know I'm getting distracted again, but like ownership is going to be around these three guys up here. So I think getting different in any sense is probably the way to go, man. At least there in that sense there. Thoughts on and luckily I don't have to. We will talk about Burton since we talked about where he's at. So he finished this Richmond race. The first one he finished in 19th and 18th. I typically do not like chasing past finishes because that is very that's why I even have race reference open. Let's go ahead and take a gander at Burton here. So if you notice, like I don't know if you're new or not. If you're not new, then you know exactly how I operate. But I do not operate off of finishing position. Where are we at, Richmond? I like going off of where they are in terms of their actual speed because that is much more. That's easier to predict. Like with Burton as an example here, like this is where he has fallen in terms of the best car, in terms of speed, pit road, et cetera, et cetera. This guy fucking blows. Like this guy is second half of the field. Okay, him getting those positions in these Richmond races. Let's see. He said he finished 19th. Way drastically better than where he was at in terms of speed all day, where he fell in line. Yet again, same thing. And, some people might argue, be like, yeah, he finishes better than where he's at. Like, well, he finished 31st last year. So I'm not. Thoughts on Burton today. Finished 19th and 18th spring races. I'm not even looking at 23. Spring. Also, secondly, this is a fucking night race. We have not had a night race at Richmond in this car. And we might have a green racetrack. We might have rain. These stupid motherfuckers might run this thing tomorrow. Like, oh yeah, sure. NASCAR the one day we're like, yeah, we're gonna do a night race. It's gonna get rained out. Like, so I don't know. For me, that's not really something I'd want to jump on and stuff because like I like looking at recent form and focusing where people are at, and this is where Harrison Burton's at. I don't think we need to focus on him. At least that's my opinion. Why do you guys keep saying Happy Easter, man? I'd never wish Happy Easter to like anybody. Like I'm only here for lulz, man. My lulz, not the show. Briscoe and Barry. Talked about them. Austin Dillon Gregson. I made arguments of probably why I wouldn't play or other GPP plays and stuff like that. Talk about Chastain practice. I think people are off him because his times look slow. So when we're looking at Ross, let's find his lap times here. So I'm not off him based on practice yet again. So like when we're looking at the two different groups, group one was faster, group one is always faster, et cetera, yada, yada, yada. I'm not getting that discussion. I default to this on screen. Okay. And where Chastain is at. Now, he had a fantastic run he had a good car last year, first Richmond race, and in the Phoenix race last year. When he won in Phoenix. When I look at this, typically compared to where he's starting now, we can argue that yes, he has a good pit stall, and yes, Trackhouse will try and they're also another team that likes to get different. But Suarez is just so goddamn slow; they can't do anything with Suarez. Like Suarez is also bad. Like that's why it's so funny when people get mad at me for saying this guy sucks or whatever. Because I say everybody sucks, bro. But like Suarez, what does this guy want? He's won a road course race, and he won the greatest race since Dale died. Like wow, holy God, what a player, what a race car driver. You know why he can't do anything more? Because like he's not that good of a driver, man. Like if you rank like true talent, equipment removed, Suarez is like the 15th best rated, best experienced talent, raw talent driver in the field. Okay, and so when you're looking at how Trackhouse has to approach Suarez, they're typically keeping him out long. And this is get back to Ross Chastain in a second. We typically see Suarez, they keep him out long waiting for a yellow because they're like, that's our main thing. Same thing with McDowell. Like Front Row Motorsports realizes that, like, well, we can't really short pit anybody because we don't have the speed to do that. Our only true avenue is to run long and hope for a yellow. Suarez, McDowell, those guys fall into that category, which, usually negatively hurts them when you're waiting for a yellow and stuff, and it doesn't come out, it doesn't work out for them. So, like, back to Chastain. When I'm looking at Chastain here, I think people are, what are you saying? You think people are asking because his times are slow, but the fall-off's not bad? I mean, people are probably off him based on this type of stuff where I'm looking at here. I don't know. Like, that's why I'm not prioritizing him. And he's $8,500. He needs to, you may have not have been here when I went over this, Andrew, because I mentioned him at the start of the race or the start of the show with Elliott, Chastain, Bowman, Wallace. This is anything less than leading laps is a failure in that lineup. That lineup is dead on arrival. So, like, if you're playing Chastain, and this is why I wouldn't be, because you have to ask yourself, is he better than Larson? I don't believe so, but he's starting third. If Larson runs into an issue, he can't take over. But is he better than Truex? Is he better than Hamlin? Can he stay out in front? Can he outscore Bell? Like, he has to beat so many different people. I know he's $8,500, but he also has to do better than Keselowski, than Reddick. In order for Chastain to work out, he would have to have a Phoenix race last year type of day. Let's check out the last Phoenix or the spring Toyota owners race last year. We have Chastain leading 16 laps, started fourth last year, did third, basically did nothing with that. When did he lead? So Chastain led very early, then got passed. Let's just make sure there's no yellow there. No, competition caution. 34 takes over the competition caution. Leads to this crash here. And he just doesn't get the lead back again. Personally, for me, like I would not. There's so many other people I'd want to build around. Chastain would not be one of those guys today. Let's see. I've already kind of answered that, Tyler. If your favorite build 3 10K guys. So if you're building with 3 10K guys, which yet again, I kind of like the idea of using the cheaper 10K guys here, and you're doing that. Well, then you're at $6,400 on average left over. Well, you just go down and you just play Hemrick or Haley or whatever, and you're back at $7,100. And then guess what? You can get to these dummies here. You can get to McDowell, depending on who you're playing. Like, that's why I like McDowell. That's why I like Briscoe, man. Maybe not both of them if you're playing 10K guys, but like that's the build that I kind of like. I want to go with. Give me as many potential lap leaders as possible. Yeah, I mean Chastain could punt Larson lap 1, but I don't foresee that happening. At least for me, in terms of like wild shit that would happen. I think between punting Larson or using Bowman as a wall, I feel like he'd slide up and hit Bowman more. Plus Ross, Briscoe, Suarez went out late Group 1. Yeah, I mean, It's not even okay. I'm so fucking sick and tired of talking about groups, man. Like, I don't label them because where I have been, like, I understand groups are different, especially when you're separating the competitors into different groups. You're going to have different tracks for them. You know, that's why, like, especially in a race like this, the only thing that matters is their own individual fall off compared to what they're at. Imagine if each group is on like a different day. Okay. So, like, is that, I don't know if that's easier to process or think about in people's minds, but like if you have 2 practice sessions and they're on different days, then of course you're not going to compare each other to each other because they're different conditions and stuff. But what you would look at is what the people in that group, who are the people in each group? Like, what is the competition level in that group? Is it filled with guys who are actually going to be top 10 contenders that has shown top 10 speed? And is that who you're racing around? So you look at the competition that the group has in it. Okay. And if it has, like, man, if it's a lot of people who are like in the teens, that's probably not a good sense of where people are going to be in. What if all the good guys are in group 1? Well, that's the group that you want to focus on because that is showing where those guys will be battling each other. Like, that's a great representation of where those guys are at. If it's all the good guys in one group and all the shitty guys in another group, well, then you can trust that speed because it's based around where those people who are going to be like running against each other, where they're at. If you have less good guys in each group, so it kind of evens out. Well, where have those guys usually fallen in these races? Where are they falling in line at? You know, and then what are they doing in practice? Are they Are they the worst car in practice? Well, then clearly it's not going to be the worst car in practice if they have, you know, a consistent top 10-ish car in these races and stuff. And so, like, the whole thing for me with the different groups and getting into, well, you know, this guy went out later, man, you know, they went out later in practice. Well, if you're going out late in practice, you're not putting on new tires in these practice sessions. They don't give you another set of tires. All this is done on one set of tires. Okay. So, like, if you're concerned about that affecting the long run speed, well, then that NASCAR isn't counting that in the long run speed. If you go down pit lane, your run's done. It doesn't matter if you make a change and come back out. So, like, for me, like, all that stuff's a waste of time. Like, truly going into it, I just look at it as like, or whenever I go, like, as I said with like Josh Berry. Okay, we look at average times. We look at his laps. Man, looking pretty good. Man, he's pretty fast. Holy shit, this guy's the fastest fucking guy on the track. Yeah, in this, when has he ever shown that he's the fastest guy? Has he ever replicated that he is the fastest dude in the West? Never. So, like, why would you even bother looking at this, comparing him to other people? Whereas the only thing that you can compare is, like, what is his fall off compared to his own individual times? We understand that it's inflated. We understand that this is like nobody's hitting this type of speed in the race. What is he doing here? He has a pretty significant drop off from the start of his thing to the end. That's pretty significant. I don't know what percentage that is, but just visualizing, like, we can see, man, that's a pretty big percentage lost. Whereas other people, like Larson, he does not lose anywhere near that type of percentage based on his laps. Okay. Now you might be like, we're using Larson, who is also fast, but like, okay, so Barry is going to be like running, let's see. So Barry has a true potential of running from like 16th to like 25th. Who is he racing around in those lines? What is the fall off looking like there? So we go down and we're just going to look at like mid-tier packs, or not mid-tier, but like mid guys. So those are people like Stenhouse, people like, you know, we got like Dylan, Suarez, Briscoes, McDowell's and stuff. So when we go ahead and look at like this fall off, which basically we can just, and we're not even looking at the mile per hour because mile per hour is like basically 4. I mean, that's also going to be inflated, but we're looking at like a fall off of like truly like probably 3 mile per hours truly over the course of 40 laps. Is anybody else losing that, like getting in? I'm not counting true the 20s. Like, I'm saying, like, his realistic speeds is probably going to be like 117. So what are other guys doing at like 117s? Hey, you know, we got like some of these mid-tier guys. Where's Suarez at? We use Suarez as an example. All right, so we got Suarez as a guy who is going to be basically right at like 15th, 16th all day, already starting at 117. So, like, that's perfectly fine. Let's see how drastically this big of a fall off is. Hey, man, it's not that drastic. He's actually able to he doesn't just fall off a cliff. Man, what's Priest looking like? Man, his own teammate not falling off a cliff, lap by lap. Man, it's making Barry be pretty bad. What's Stenhouse doing? I mean, that's pretty significant. But like, wow, okay, so like Barry probably has a better car than Stenhouse. Holy shit, man. We're like making fucking truly life-changing discoveries. What is Briscoe doing here compared to everybody else or compared to Barry and his teammate? This is more so in line of what we're probably going to see from Barry. So like, where does that put Briscoe? Where does that project Barry to be at? So let's just kind of see what Briscoe's been able to do. And then you do this and you're like, yeah, Briscoe's probably going to be like mid-tier, or mid-pack or whatever. Like this is right where he's at, So when we look at like Barry and we see him starting 30th and we see him at Briscoe, like this is like where he would fall in line at. Very long-winded way of going about of how I answer these questions, like when on my own thing. And why, like if you don't have which again, I upload all this in the Discord just so you guys have it. But like the things that I don't like regarding the group questions that I hear people answer is that I just gave like a 3.5 minute, 4 minute answer. I did not answer in one sentence. I did not answer in 10 seconds. Like, if you want to answer that question of like, well, what's the difference between this group and this group? You have to give that entire, and you have to do that for every person. Okay. Which I'm fine doing, but I don't do that on a show. Like, all that's already baked in the projections. I already do that on my own end. But like, if you're not willing to do that for every single driver and understand why each group is different, well, I'm not saying to you specifically, Andrew, but like, one, don't not you, Andrew, but like in general, like if you're not willing to go through and like, oh, let's compare all this and then let's go ahead and look at kind of where these guys are falling in line at. Hey, maybe, if I want to do more, I'll just go look at the Phoenix laps and see what was different there and compare it to the race and blah blah blah. Like if you're not willing to do that to get that answer of like, well, these groups are different, like then don't even ask that group. Don't even go down that avenue. That's where I'm at. Anyway, now we can go ahead and end on pit road and what is it? And kind of end our show there. So let's bring up the pit lane, pit selections, boop. All right, so who is a good car? Now, yet again, I already make all this stuff into my stuff, but what I would encourage you to do is give a slight bump. Give a slight bump. You can very easily do it in terms of fast laps. The thing that I do is I think a good pit stall is worth. Now, you might argue that this is stupid because I don't just want to give them more positions or whatever. But I think a good pit stall is worth anywhere between 7 to 13, 12 fast laps. Okay. So we're looking at that. That's like, I don't even know how many DK points that is. So, like, let's see. So, press that. What the heck? What the heck? Am I a number lock? What the fuck? I am. So like 7 fast laps is 3.15 points. 11 fast laps is 4.49 points. I think that is a great little number to use if somebody has a good pit stall. Okay, so like Kyle Larson, whatever his projection is, add 3.65 to it with the weighted importance of this pit stall. Bell, horrific pit stall, stuck behind Gregson. Both these guys are going to be like terrible pit stall. Bowman is going to have to make sure that he is able to get around Christopher Bell. You can't necessarily give that to Bowman. You can give him like 2 points or whatever. Like yet again, between the span of like, I forgot how many fast laps I just said, like 7 to 14. Like if it's a good one, add, what would 14 be? 14's like 6.3 points. If it's a bad one, add, like 2.7. Like somewhere, get a feel for that. So like Larson, good pit stall. Give him additional 6 points or whatever. Bowman, gooder pit stall, but has hindrances compared to this. Add 2.5 points to his projected DraftKings points based on this. Like that's literally all I do. That's how I rate the pit stalls, and typically it falls in line, and you end up getting those and stuff like that. So anyway, good pit stall, Cindric, good pit stall for Chastain, Priest, good, Hamlin, good, Briscoe and Byron. Got to kind of hurt Byron because Briscoe most likely be on the lead lap. If Briscoe goes off lead lap, then you can give him full points. Full points for Bubba, full points for Briscoe, full points for Ty Gibbs. So like here's another example of like Ty Gibbs is a bit difficult because he's right at like 10K today. But what does I bet you SaberSim just hates Ty Gibbs today? Let me see. So like Ty Gibbs on SaberSim is projected for, where the fuck is he at? He's projected for 39.19 points, okay? So 39 equals, I don't even know what that equals by his pricing. Certainly not value. Anyway, the reason why I'm bringing this up is what I would do, even if you don't believe in Ty Gibbs, but you can do this for other people. You see Ty Gibbs like, oh, 39 points? Well, he's got a pretty good pit stall. I'm going to go ahead and just we're going to give him like 11 fast laps. That is 4.9 points. So that would bump him just based off of SaberSim owner projections from 39 points, like 44, 45. And you're like, man, he's 10K. That's like a 4.4 value, and it throws him into potentially more lineups just based purely on the pit stall selection. I didn't give him, like in this example, you're not giving him a fucking lot. You're not giving him a lap lead. You're just bumping him based on the pit stall. And you're like, man, you know what? Ty Gibbs has a real chance of getting close to 5x value and not having to do a lot with it. He doesn't really have to do a lot in this race. Like, you just do that for everybody. I don't understand why other people don't do that. I just don't get it. I don't understand. And like Joe Gibbs is fast on pit lane. Like you also go and like, I mean, I typically don't do it to people who have bad pit stalls because that usually negates them having being faster on pit lane. But like, I just went blank on who has a fast. Let me look it up real fast. Hold on. I'll give an example. Give me a second. Here. Uno momento, por favor. So like, when we look at the cars who are like fast, like, hey, Denny Hamlin has been really fast in pit lane. Give him a bump. Give him like an additional 3 fast laps for that. What's that? That's like a 1 point. I don't even know what it fucking is, dude. That's like, what, 1.15 points or whatever? An additional 1.5 points based purely on pit road speed. Hey, man, William Byron, pretty fast on pit lane. Might want to give him a little bump there, in addition to him having a good pit stall. Yet again, if Briscoe's in front of him, the major thing is because he can at least aim for Briscoe being there because he has an open stall behind him. But like, hey man, you're gonna want to bump William Byron because he's been fast on pit lane lately. Man, Chase Elliott has been pretty fast on pit lane. Where is he at? That's a good pit stall. Nobody's in front of him. On top of having pretty good pit stall times, what is Chase Elliott at? $9,000. Good pit stall. So we go ahead and add, we go to Chase Elliott, good pit stall, roughly like 4.9 points in value, plus a good pit crew. Add him some points there, and so you end up adding 6.75 points for Chase Elliott based on that. So like just based on where he start, this is like he starts second. So like we're not going too crazy here, but like if he gaining, losing positions don't matter at this point. He starts 42nd. That's 42 points. You give him a bonus for having fast crews and a good pit stall. That's 7.2 points that I would give him for that position. Combine that with the 42 points that he has at second place right now. He holds on to that all day. He finished with 49.2 points. Okay? We can see that. Now, do you believe he runs away with the race? Well, if he runs away with the race, you're already overweight on him because you've already projected him better than probably other people, just purely based on the pit road aspect that the 9 car has. Okay? If you want to be aggressive, or not aggressive, but you want to like, I don't think Elliott's going to be there. I'm going to have him finishing like I guess 9th today, but I'll give him the pit road bonus there. And what does Elliott finish with? He finishes with 35.2 points. Not horrific. I mean, it's still pretty bad, but like pit road can carry that stuff like that. Like, do people not like even calculate that shit in the pit lane? Like, where the fucking lap by lap sims? Do the lap by lap sims give this stuff to them? No, they don't. But like that's an aspect. So like if you want to play Elliott today, lean into his pit road, lean into him getting the lead on pit lane. Like that's where we're at. Does this make sense? Am I just like spouting nonsense? Am I just going on another rant about projections and how you can weight things and how things can be weighted and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? I think that's mainly about it. Let's see if the chat has anything else real fast. 90 guys here on Easter Sunday. Thank you very much for being here. I do not see anything that has been added here. I don't see any people leaning towards where they are in the Jesus commercial, so that's unfortunate. So I guess this weekend's going to end with a total of 4 feet washers and nobody wanting their feet washed. Let's see what else. I think that's mainly about it, man. I think we've talked about everything. I'm personally playing Ty Gibbs today. That's what I'm going to do, and then I can never wear this shirt again. I've actually never worn this shirt. I've had it for years. I've just been waiting for him to win a Cup Series race to put it on the next day. But like, hopefully it's today. That'd be hilarious. That would be, honestly, that'd be fucking hilarious. Like he does win on Easter Sunday. Like that's incredible. This man literally calls himself Jesus. The second coming of Jesus, literally calls himself Jesus. The next week, God takes his father. Like, are you kidding me? You can't make that up. And then he gets his first win on Easter Sunday. I mean, that would be incredible. That would be the greatest spectacle in racing. This whole Ty Gibbs situation. That'd be amazing. Anyway, guys, have a good day. Enjoy the race later. Enjoy your Sunday. We got Counter-Strike. I'm not playing DFS for that, but Counter-Strike starts at like 3.5 hours or so. Navi versus FaZe in Stockholm. I believe it's Stockholm. I don't think it's in Copenhagen. Where's the PGL Major at real fast? Yeah, it's Copenhagen. Gonna be a good show. I'll be watching that. And no iRacing race today. We have our off week as well. So yeah, just enjoy the day off. Enjoy your Sunday. And I will see you guys later. So peace out.